him, what did he say, would have like 12 rings?
Yeah.
Well, Shaq responded saying you would have more chips if you passed the ball a little bit more. Stephen A., Kobe's comments, fair or foul?
Kind of foul. And, it's not a big deal because I've known both of them well for a long time, and I know how deep this goes. And the only reason I say it's foul isn't because of what Kobe said, because Kobe, know this, Kobe said nothing that he has not said to Shaq to his face.
Yeah.
Everything that he said, he has told Shaq to his face. And even I had to tell Shaq in the past, look, man, he knows Big Macs. Shaq was addicted to Big Macs. I'm trying to tell y'all right now. Like, Kobe would be out there working his butt off, working in the gym a whole bit. Shaq was like, I'm ready, I'll be ready to go. And Kobe would walk into the trainer's room for a game, and Shaq is munching on some Big Macs.
You're doing all that cardio.
I mean, Shaq big boy, man. He's 7'1", 350, and loved some Big Mac. He's like an addict, okay? So that would just drive Kobe crazy.
Yeah.
That would just drive him crazy. And so Kobe has always been incredibly honest about how he felt to Shaq's face, okay? But here's why I say it's foul. Because the animosity that existed between those two, particularly when they were in the finals against Detroit with one another, was so real. I'm just trying to tell you, it was. I can't go into details about how bad it was and how bona fide hatred existed. Okay, I can't tell you some of the things Shaq wished on him. I can't tell you some of the things Kobe probably wished on Shaq. It was very bad, right? But y'all met, y'all sat down, y'all discussed each other's future, each other's careers, where you were, how enlightened you were, because how you thought about certain things, certain ways, et cetera, et cetera. And it led us all to believe everything with y'all is cool, everything with y'all is great, et cetera, et cetera. And then something like this happens, and Shaq gonna come right back at it because Shaq ain't taking that lying down. And then it just revitalizes and brings up stuff that y'all both swore y'all were past. Now, knowing Kobe the way I do, Kobe still passed it. He just answered the question. Honestly. But Shaq
came back at him on IG already,
yes,
saying you'd have 12 if you passed the ball in the finals against the Pistons. Look, it's not foul what Kobe said at all. It's totally fair. When someone asks you what would Shaq be if he had your work ethic, that doesn't mean Shaq doesn't work hard compared to your average person. It means he didn't work hard compared to Kobe freaking Bryant, whose work ethic is legend. I picked the Pistons to beat them, and I thought the Pistons were going to sweep them that year. I was surprised the Lakers got one game because I was paying attention in the conference finals when the Pistons and the Pacers played the greatest defensive series I ever saw, and Shaq was jumping up and down with no lateral movement because he delayed getting the surgery on his foot, and that pushed back his conditioning, et cetera, et cetera. Kobe was mad about that. Now, did Kobe not pass the ball? Yeah, of course. Kobe was not perfect, but that wasn't the question they asked Kobe. You think it's foul for Kobe to say he'd be the great? Shaq would be the greatest. Like, Shaq's like the 5th greatest player of all time. Kobe's saying he'd be the greatest player of all time easily if he had my work. That's foul. It's a compliment, if anything. Look, when you talk about like the game of life, who's won? Who would you like to, if you couldn't be yourself, you had to be someone else, who would you be? Shaq is on a short list. He's lived, as you would say, Molly, his best life, right? Everyone loves him. He's the movie star. He's been a rapper. He's an NBA champion, one of the greatest ever. He's always the biggest dude who ever walks in the room. He's legitimately charismatic and funny, and everyone loves him. Shaq is winning at life. But sometimes to be the best who ever did something, you have to sacrifice some of those other things in your life. Kobe was willing to. I wouldn't rather be Kobe than Shaq. But if you want to say who got more out of their abilities, Kobe is on a short list of greatest players of all time, and he shouldn't be compared to Shaq. Shaq was the post-Michael Jordan. I've seen 2 guys who I've looked at, and I said, could he be as good or better than Jordan? Shaq is one, LeBron's the other. The answer in both cases is no. But Shaq fell shorter than he should have compared to Jordan because he wanted to live a great life, which he has. That's sacrilege. Like, if you're not willing to be a maniac to the level Kobe Bryant is, and Kobe's asked, what if this guy who's a top 5 player ever was a maniac to your level? Kobe's like, then he would have been the best player ever. How is that foul?
Because Max takes it in a different way than it's going to be absorbed by most of the masses. And typical Max Kellerman style, he ignores almost everybody else because he's fixated on himself. Here's what I'm saying. Let me explain. Shaq knows that when Kobe said what he said, Kobe being the brilliant individual that he is, nothing short of brilliant, you're not going to remember if he had my work ethic. What you're going to say is Shaq's laziness cost X, Y, and Z. That's how it's going to be interpreted by the basketball masses, which is why Shaq clapped back on Instagram, because Shaq is like, you know good and damn well what that kind of statement means. Even though Kobe Bryant was answering the question, like you said, and being completely honest and forthcoming and candid, as he always is, he don't give a damn. Kobe gonna let you know where he stands. Kobe has told Shaq this to his face while they were playing with each other and beyond. So let's be clear about that. But Shaq knows, after sitting down together, squashing it, talking about it was all PR and marketing and just trying to do everything they can to smooth that over and move beyond that. A statement like this is going to remind folks that Shaq didn't put in the work.
Wait.
That's all.
I don't think Shaq was foul either. Shaq's telling the truth, too.
I didn't say Shaq was foul.
They underachieved together. Those two were so great that they three-peated and underachieved together. And the proof in the pudding is, as soon as Shaq left, he won another championship.
Team to three-peat.
And then Kobe won 2 more. They won altogether 3 championships without each other. So what would they have done together? Should Shaq have been in better shape at times? Should Kobe have passed the ball more? The answer to both questions is yes. They're 2 of the greatest players ever. They're among the greatest combinations ever. But they didn't do as much as they might have.
TNT, led by the great Ernie Johnson, is going to have some segment in the future, this upcoming season, when Barkley and Shaq, typical to form, are going to be going at one another. And when that happens, Barkley is going to remind him of what Kobe had to say. And guess what? It's going to be interpreted exactly the way that I'm telling you. When I speak to Shaq in the near future, I promise you, it's going to be interpreted exactly the way that I'm saying. And Kobe knows it. That's all I'm saying.
We have to go to break. So you feel like this isn't just all fun right now with these two?
No.
Oh, I thought it was like this is over.
No, I'm not saying
the beef's over and they're just having fun and playing around in the media.
I'm not saying there's something's going to come from it between the two. They are what they are. But make no mistake, Kobe wasn't playing when he said it.
Got it.
And make no mistake, Shaq wasn't playing when he clapped back.
You ever see the end of the movie Life?
Coast to Coast. The Stephen A. Smith Show starts right now.
What's up, everybody? To the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airways of ESPN Radio, ESPN News, 250-plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM listing nearest you, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up, as always, is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. By the way, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch and save pay an average of $699 less per year. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Lots of stuff to get into today. Antonio Brown, more news. Clapping back at Big Ben Roethlisberger. We'll get into all of that. Definitely got to talk about that. Of course, more fallout from the whole Andrew Luck thing. As the season approaches, we're going to be taking a look at the NFL season and some of your predictions, some of your projections. Talk a little college football as well, because that's starting in just 3 days. I mean, it started last week with Miami and Florida, but, I mean, Alabama plays. Clemson plays. Oklahoma plays. Georgia plays, stuff like that. So we'll get into that a little bit later. I'm going to get into a little bit of Michigan stuff as well about Jim Harbaugh. Plus, I'm going to touch on an injury to the Crimson Tide, Alabama, that some believe may very well end up costing them a national championship this year. We'll get into all of that. But I'm going to start off with a little basketball talk because I want to say this. Kobe Bryant made news. The great Kobe Bryant, the future Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer, that is Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest players to have ever blessed us with this game. His game putting his greatness on display. That Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was interviewed and spoke about Shaquille O'Neal. And obviously, if you were listening to him, it was not very, very flattering. He and Shaq had won 3 titles together. Despite it, the two had become foes and the complicated relationship had forged. Just reading from one of the articles here. Bryant was recently in Las Vegas for the 10th annual PHP Agency Convention. And he got to be interviewed by Patrick Bet-David. At one point, Bryant was asked about Shaq's work ethic and whether or not he went hard in the gym. As Bryant explained, he's told Shaq numerous times that he's, quote unquote, a lazy ass, end quote. Although he was quick to give him some high praise as well. According to Kobe Bryant, he'd be the greatest of all time. The greatest of all time. Bryant said when speaking on how Shaq would have been had he gone to the gym. Kobe, he'd be the first to tell you that. I wish he was in the gym. I would have had 12 effing rings, end quote. Let me come to Kobe's defense in this regard. He has said nothing in that interview that he hasn't said on numerous occasions, including the Shaq's face. Kobe Bryant didn't say anything behind Shaq's back. He wasn't phony. He wasn't fake. He was as real and as candid and as authentic as you know him to be. If you know Kobe Bryant, there is nothing surprising about what he said. He's told Shaq that to his face. He said it behind his back. He said it in public. He said it in private. He said it to Hall of Famers. He said it to scrubs. It don't matter. Kobe Bryant has always said that about Shaquille O'Neal. Those of us close to Shaquille O'Neal, who love Shaquille O'Neal like a brother, we all know what Kobe has had to say and couldn't say a damn thing against it. Because it is absolutely true that there have been times, or there were times in the past, when Kobe Bryant would be on the court working his tail off for hours upon hours at a time, improving upon his game. There have been times when Kobe Bryant spoke to Shaq directly and was like, let's do this, big fella, let's get it going. And then we'll go in the training room and see Shaq swallowing about 3 Big Macs. It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. There's no denying it. There's no denying it. But here's why I think if the question was being asked like it was fair or foul, the only issue I had with Kobe Bryant saying what he said is that to bring it up now in the fashion that he brought it up, you knew Shaq was going to clap back because you knew that Shaq was offended, no matter what Shaq says. Because Shaq would be the first to tell you, ain't no lazy dude winning 4 rings, which Shaq has done in his illustrious career. Ain't no lazy dude as dominant as I was. Ain't no lazy dude going to be considered outside of Wilt Chamberlain the most dominant force to have ever graced the floor of basketball. Shaq will also tell you, as he said on Instagram in this clap back at Kobe, we would have won more championships if you passed the damn ball in the Detroit series, which was true. Because back then, the heat between Shaq and Kobe, ladies and gentlemen, I will never divulge that stuff without the permission of both players. I would never do that to them because both of them are my boys. I got love for both of them. Both of them. Forever. But I'm here to tell you something right now. I got to get their permission to reveal the stuff that about how deep their hatred with each other went once upon a time. I mean, it was bad. It was really, really, really bad. And when Shaq sits up there and says that Kobe didn't want to give him the ball during the final series that they lost the 5 games to the Detroit Pistons, I'll be damned if he's lying. He's absolutely right. The hatred, the fuel had elevated to such proportions that it actually affected their play together on the court in that final series. There is no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. I can tell you one time, just so y'all know, because you're looking at Big Shaq, 7'1", 350 pounds, and here was the crazy part about Kobe. Most people would be scared of somebody that size, that ferocious, that powerful. Kobe was not scared of Shaq at all. I came on the air one time with y'all years ago when I was on ESPN 710 LA, just to show the local show. And I said, yo, relationship basically was over before it started because Shaq slapped the hell out of Kobe Bryant at a gym. I think it was at a Loyola Marymount, if I can remember correctly, in the summertime before Kobe's career with the Lakers even started. He was a rookie that was just drafted. That's what I had said at the time. And Kobe called me and was like, he tried to slap me. He missed. He never slapped me. Get that straight. That's what he said years ago. And from the moment that Shaq tried to put his hands on him, it was never the same. So much so that years later, when they were teammates and they were winning championships, and people were talking about Kobe shooting the basketball too much and not being a team player and being a bit selfish, if I remember correctly, I think that was the issue. Even though I can't tell you specifically what the issue was when Kobe did what I'm about to tell you, let me tell you what Kobe Bryant did, because I'm trying to give you some insight into who the hell he is. He ain't no fake, fluff, phony kind of dude now. He ain't the 7'1" Shaq. Arguably the most powerful man we've seen in the sport in the modern era. But when it comes to heart and complete fearlessness, that some would argue were towards suicide proportions when you're talking about going up against Shaquille O'Neal. Let me assure you, Kobe Bryant was not scared at all. Damn it, sometimes it's almost like he wanted to get into a fist fight with Shaq. And so I forgot what the incident was. Kobe Bryant grabbed the newspaper article and went to each locker in front of everybody, called every one of his teammates an MFer, and said, you said this, MFer? Show the article. You said this, MFer? You said this, MFer? Went to each locker stall, including Shaq's. That's Kobe Bryant. Ain't scared of nothing. That's who he is. That's who he was as a player. So understand, I'm not telling you, Kobe didn't say anything. He didn't say anything that he hasn't said to Shaq's face. He didn't say anything that misrepresents what his position has always been. It is completely and totally consistent. But I still think it was a little foul. And the only reason I think it was a little foul is because you and Shaq sat down. You discussed it. You discussed your careers. Phenomenal interview with the two of you on NBA TV, with y'all talking to one another one-on-one. No intermediary. Just going back and forth, et cetera, each missing the positives and each admitting, rather, the positives and some flaws about the other or about each other. And all of that was supposed to be squashed. Now, to me, Kobe saying what he said yesterday is just Kobe being candid and matter of fact about it. But the clap back from Shaq says he was a bit offended. And if you Kobe, you had to know Shaq would be offended. Which means saying it, you just didn't care. Probably not a big deal. Knowing Shaq, he'll brush it off, laugh it off, talk about its marketing, just another brilliant move on his part. And Kobe was in on it. Knowing Shaq, he'll come up with some cockamamie story like that. But it ain't that simple. Now, let me be the first to say, here's what I love about Kobe. No matter what the fallout is, Kobe ain't gonna give a damn. He said what he said, he meant what he meant, period. Period. Kobe ain't trying to assuage anybody's concern. He ain't trying to gloss over it and smooth the edges. He ain't trying to do none of that. That ain't Kobe. My only point is, I thought we were past all of this. I will say this, too. I don't think Kobe and Shaq together would have had 12 rings. They might have had 7, but not 12. I don't believe that. I just don't believe that. I don't see that at all. I think they might have had 2 more titles together. 5 or 6, maybe, actually. They might have had 2 more titles together. Remember, Shaq went to Miami. Let's not forget the Dallas Mavericks, who lost to the Miami Heat at the time when Dwayne Wade came onto the scene and just let everybody know, I'm that dude. I'm that dude. I'm that future Hall of Famer. There's MJ, there's Kobe, and there's me. That's what Dwayne Wade said when he averaged about 37 in the final 4 games against the Dallas Mavericks. What a monster performance. But if you recall, and you talked to some Dallas Mavericks at that time, their belief was they didn't lose the series because of Shaq. They lost it because of Alonzo Mourning. He was a terror defensively. Shaq could get his points and dunk on anybody. He could do a whole bunch of things. The dream shake, he had that to his game too. But Alonzo Mourning was that nightmare for the Dallas Mavericks on the offensive side of the ball because he was so surreal defensively. That's what they would tell you. So Shaq with Kobe, 12 rings, hell no. 7 rings, probably not. 6 rings, maybe. 5 rings, definitely, together. But that's the interesting thing about Kobe, and that's the foresight that he deserves because, again, if I had to pick fair or foul, I would use the word foul for him bringing that stuff up. But I will tell you, he looks kind of brilliant that Shaq was gone, and he ultimately ended up going back to 3 straight NBA Finals and winning back-to-back championships in 2009 and 2010 because we talk about Kobe differently. Had Kobe won, and I'll ask you, the Kobe fans everywhere, the basketball fans everywhere, particularly the Los Angelians everywhere, I'd ask you this simple question. If Kobe Bryant, if as a fan of Kobe Bryant, rather, what do you prefer? The 5 rings that he has, the way that he had them? Or 6, 7, 8 rings with Shaquille O'Neal the whole time? What do you think would have been best for his legacy? Because we know what Kobe's answer is. What's yours? 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. And listen, as far as Shaq goes, did Shaq work as hard as Kobe? Hell no. Did Shaq try to get over at times? Sure. Was Shaq honest about that fact because he knew he had Kobe, so he could